right now. And I will pull up that PowerPoint as well. Sorry about that. Are you all seeing screen 2? Should be called to order. Okay, thanks, Brett. Fredo, it looks like maybe you're typing something. You're not seeing any of it. Can't hear anything.
Afternoon, can you guys hear me? Yeah.
And I could barely hear you.
Just
And I
can't hear
apologize. I
anybody,
could talk
so
louder
there's
too.
probably something wrong with my setup, so I'm gonna try to figure it out. Okay, so give me a moment.
Ken, I think we jinxed Alfredo. Testing 1, 2. Fredo, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Awesome. And are you able to see, Alfredo, that shared screen?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I was just trying to get the audio working, and it has now worked, so I can hear you fine. So
Perfect.
yeah. So once again, good afternoon to everyone, and sorry for the short delay. We're gonna get started. So I'd like to call our meeting to order, and I think by now probably Mickey has noted who's present. I think everyone is, right? So
yeah, you are missing Heather. She did reach out that she wasn't available today.
Okay, so just Heather. Wonderful. All right, so we're gonna move to the second item on our agenda, which is space for public comment. This is a period devoted to comments by anyone attending from the general public about items on the agenda. Is there anyone from the general public present?
We do have one person online, and they do have their hand raised, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute them.
Thank you, Mickey.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hi, Brian.
Okay. How you doing?
Brett, do you have any comments about?
No, I'm just sitting in. I love sitting in on these. I always learn more by sitting in on these and just getting updated.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for attending.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to move on to the next item on our agenda, which would be the approval of the agenda for our meeting. So,
So Alfredo, we do have one change here. We are going to have our poet laureate will be coming online and speaking to you today. And so we did want to add her as an agenda item. However, I'm not seeing her logged in yet.
okay. And so that would be close to the end of the meeting, perhaps, or?
It might have to be.
Okay. So in that case, please keep in mind that there's a change to the agenda, and so we will hear from our poet laureate. Possibly, if you don't mind me making that suggestion, maybe we can make it right after item 7. So there will be a 7B, which, you know, after we have discussed a laureate program for performing artists, perhaps we can then hear from our poet laureate and learn more about the program and her experience, if that's okay. So with that amendment in mind, do we have someone who motions to approve our agenda for today?
I'll move that we approve our amended agenda today. Jeff Fulmer.
Thank you, Jeff.
Oh.
I will second that, Alexia.
Thank you, Alexia. So everybody who's in favor of the amendment and the proposed agenda, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
I went through set.
Abstentions or against? So it seems that we have approved the amended agenda for today's meeting. Thank you, everyone. And so our fourth item on today's agenda will be the approval of the minutes for our November 12th meeting. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes from our previous meeting?
This is Jerry. I so move to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Thank you, Jerry. Any seconds?
I'll gladly second that. Jeff Fulmer.
Thank you, Jeff. Those in favor of approving the minutes of our November 12th, 2024 meeting, please say aye.
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 Opposed or abstentions? Hearing none, we approve our minutes unanimously, which now we can move to item number 5, which I believe that last time we had just about everyone, maybe there was just one person missing from acknowledging that we have completed the training of the Nevada Ethics Commission. Again, I completed that. I know that most of you have and have reiterated that at previous meetings of our committee, but if you don't mind, just go ahead and if you have completed it. So I confirm I have completed this training. So let me start by saying that. And if you all could just do a quick statement asserting whether you have or not completed this training would be appreciated.
Hi, this is Alexia. I think that one person left was me and I've completed the training.
Thank you, Alexia. And I think everybody else had on record stated that they had completed the training. So we're good in that regard. All right. So number 6, it's the discussion on identifying values to the
Sorry to interrupt you, Alfredo, but we do have the poet laureate here and ready to speak. Would that be okay with everyone to jump into Ashley?
Sure, I don't have a problem with that. Anybody has any objections to that?
Thank you. Right.
Hello, everyone. I'm so grateful to be here with you, and I appreciate you welcoming me into this meeting today. As you can see in front of you, we have just a few different slides to kind of help you understand all of the really amazing things that we're going to be doing specifically with the poetic literary art here in Southern Nevada. My name again is Ashley Vargas. I also perform as Miss AV. I have been a spoken word artist for just about 10 years now. So it's very exciting to be able to transition into this cultural ambassador role and being able to continue to work with the public and our community to engage more people into the literary arts, specifically with poetry. It has already been such an exciting time since I was appointed in October. From October, with the first appearance, which was my announcement at the Las Vegas Book Festival, which had well over 5,000 people there, into most recently closing out 2024. We have engaged almost 7,000 people, not including the various different online things that I've done as well, from appearances to interviews, and recently starting back up with our CCTV segment on local channel 4, which is our Poetry Corner. So in that, we are highlighting local literary artists and being able to again tap into the greater Southern Nevada community and show them the arts that we have right here in Southern Nevada. You'll see in this picture right in front of you here some of our winners. So as part of my Poet Laureateship programming in partnership with Clark County Public Arts, I will be presenting ekphrastic poetry workshops throughout my term. And so really that's just a fancy way of stating that we're going to write poetry that is inspired by visual arts, specifically different arts that are on display at the various different exhibitions presented by Clark County Public Arts. And so with each workshop, we encourage the participants to submit their poems that were created during the workshop via Submittable, and 3 of those submitted poems will be chosen to perform at the closing receptions for those specific exhibitions, with an amazing stipend of $100 that will be presented to them, sponsored by Clark County Public Arts as well. So it's just another way to engage the community and recognize that literary arts is alive and well right here in Southern Nevada. The goal is to encourage our local literary artists, of course, to participate and perhaps even take their work to the next level. But most importantly, to let all of our county members and participants in the arts in Southern Nevada that poetry is alive here, and it is something that they can really be into and they can have an exciting engagement in as well. Because some people, hey, they're like, I don't know about poetry, I don't know about Emily Dickinson. But when they're able to meet their community members right here, right now in 2025, there is something very exciting about that. And with my programming, bridging those gaps between visual arts and literary arts, it's a very, very exciting time. So in the previous clip, you saw that we did have a QR code that was provided to us by Clark County and Public Arts to help get the word out. So people can simply scan that QR code and be able to sign up for our newsletter, as well as tap into all of the upcoming events that are going on. So just a really seamless way of, again, engaging the Southern Nevada community to, get involved and to check out all of the beautiful arts that are happening right here, right now. And I'm so excited. It feels like, okay, I'm hitting the ground running. I just got appointed in October, and we are doing so many amazing things. And I just cannot wait as we continue to push through. And my appointment is from 2024 through 2026. And we have lots of amazing things planned. I've already gone to Mesquite and had a couple engagements there, as well as Henderson, Las Vegas, and I look forward to continuing to touch more parts of Southern Nevada during my 2-year term. And I do understand that there is a little bit of time for me to do some poetry for you. So if that's okay, I would love to just kind of introduce myself to you. And, as I like to say, there's always a good time for poetry. So with that, I would love to read to you from my newest collection. It's called Broken Silence. And so this poem is how I end my book. It's called Thought I'd Be. And I feel like it's very poignant for all of us kind of going through those transitions in life and becoming who we maybe were always meant to be. Again, this is called Thought I'd Be. Circling in the fog of comparison, how should my life be? Answers hidden in life experience and envy. Haves and have-nots, why not me? Wrong place, wrong time, maybe wrong family. Past dreams disappear like smoke. The years, the present is an unfamiliar reality. How did I get here? Twists and turns, spinning through letdowns and disappointments. Apparently, I'm not who I thought I'd be. I look and see half, sideshow, mirror reflection, a vision distorted by dissection, and half. Maybe this is exactly who I was meant to be. I've been running so long, I lost sight of all the growth that's been happening to me like a tree, staring at the ground, counting all the dead leaves, keeping myself in winter when it's really spring. What if all of this is God's timing? I keep searching for a destination when I know it's all about the journey. See, here is a moment, unlike any before, unlike any after, a blessing. As delicate as a breath, as powerful as a dying star's last wish, we are starseed manifested in flesh, a miracle of the highest order. So maybe I'm not who I thought I'd be, but perhaps I am more than I could have ever dreamed. Thank you so much. My name is Miss AV. I appreciate the snaps and claps in the room. I am your Clark County Poet Laureate, and I am so grateful to be in this position. And I just cannot wait to see what the rest of 2025 and 2026 brings for our incredible community. Thank you so much for having me.
Ashley, thank you very much for joining our meeting, and your point was extremely touching and very timely for me in many respects. So I really appreciate you, and I hope we get to cross paths during your appointment. And of course, you're always welcome to join our committee meetings, because in fact, I had mentioned before you joined us, we have an item on our agenda, which is the discussion to implement a similar program, so a laureate program for musicians or other performing artists. So any experiences that you are having through your appointment might be valuable to us, as we might craft or not an additional laureate for performing musicians and so on. So we really appreciate any input that you may have. We obviously look forward to see you again at any of the other engagements that you're going to have throughout your time here. Again, thank you for coming today, and welcome to our committee meeting.
Absolutely. Thank you again for having me and your kind words. I would love to be able to help in any way I can. Admittedly, I'm new to this. I have only been Poet Laureate for just a few short months, but, as time permits and as we go on this journey of 2 years, I would love to be able to continue and to have that open communication with you all and to be able to share my experiences. Right off the top, I can tell you from somebody who has many friends and many different art forms, I think the idea of creating another laureateship with musicians and other art forms is incredible. So you definitely have my vote if that means anything. And anything, again, that I can do to help with that process, it would be my honor to do so.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Are there any questions or any other comments that committee members may wish to share with Ashley?
I just wanted to thank Miss AV for being here and for sharing her voice and her words with us, and for being such a great ambassador for the Poet Laureate program. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Any other comments? Mickey, anything else you think we?
Yeah, I would love to just remind everyone that if you have events where you would like to book Miss AV to come and speak as the Poet Laureate, you can do so through Submittable. And I am working on like a postcard. We could get out some printed files as well. And then we will share that information with you again. So please share it with your circles. You know, as Miss AV said, she's already been asked to come out to quite a few things, and then there are more to be had, which is super cool. There is a portion in it where it asks for an honorarium. It's okay if you don't have the funding for it, but if you do, please consider that. We encourage that as well. But yeah, I think the program's going great, and Miss AV is wonderful to work with. So thank you, Miss AV.
Thank you, Vicky. I appreciate you. And yeah, I'd love to work with you guys. You know, like I said when I first came on, it's always a good time for poetry. And I think that even in spaces where you don't traditionally have literary arts, you are tending to be surprised on how well it does resonate with the community, regardless of the space that it's in. You know, I've come into spaces, whether we're talking about art galleries, whether we're talking about workshops, offices, parties, mixers, all those kinds of things that you would traditionally see maybe a musician or something of that nature. We can also bring literary arts into those spaces. And that is also part of my platform and the soapbox that I stand on as the Clark County Poet Laureate, to let people know that poetry does have a place, even if it's a bit unexpected.
Thank you again. And so I hear no other comments, I think, and you're welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting if you have the time. So we can probably move to our next item on the agenda, which was item number 6, which is very timely and appropriate. It's a discussion on identifying values to the county public art. We shared some of this information at our last meeting, and so perhaps we need to just continue that conversation and see if people have some comments to share. So please, let's get started. I think Mickey has shared the screen with the latest form of the public art values.
And so what we did was we just went in, Tammy went in and reviewed the comments from last meeting, and then just adjusted based off of what she thought you might want to see. So we definitely need a review to see if we're in ability to commit to something, or if we still want to make some tweaks.
So I went into the Word document for this and just love the dialogue and the discussion that I could see county staff having on, you know, these important value statements. There's a little confusion for me reading that to see exactly what kind of the final version was of all of those. I think that these can still use some tweaking. I don't know if that's something to do during committee or outside of committee. And I don't know kind of what the best format is for that, so that that we can move towards resolution.
Yep. You know, one of the things we could do is maybe kick it back over to the subcommittee that's already established, and then see if you all could wordsmith a bit of it. I don't know if this captures everything that Lawrence had updated on that file. So yeah, I think we need to maybe pull some of that. Maybe what we could do is, let me play around with it. Maybe I'll send you a Microsoft Forms with some of this content, some of the dialogue back and forth, and then just get your opinion on them. But try to make it real simple for the committee members.
Not being on that subcommittee, the only sort of thing that kind of, I mean, I like the direction that things have taken. When we look at long-term investments, I think that actually is a part of transform mundane locations, right? So as we begin to, I mean, we seek to transform mundane locations, which in turn will, promote, positive, not only economic, but, environments over time. And in fact, as the amount of pieces and their quality continues to increase over time, evidently that will create some buzz and hopefully promote, as it's hoped, cultural tourism. But I think, I don't know, this is my personal opinion. I don't know if highlighting long-term investments is a good thing or appropriate thing. Perhaps it is. Maybe we need to justify that investing in art is really necessary. I think it's kind of something that all of us believe in, but I don't know if as people read these statements, it highlights the need for it. So I'm not saying that it should not be stated. I'm simply saying that I see it as part of that effort to transform locations, right? I think it all is a package to me, but I can see why it may need to be highlighted separately.
And I might be the person, Jeff Ulmer, I might be the person who's kind of pushing for that economic message there, because I do think it's something that, although our committee embraces and understands, I don't know if the larger public and the commission really gets the arts in general, not just visual art, not just public art, but local arts are a big part of the economy, and they can be a driver of our economy, not only through cultural tourism, but through just artists making their work, especially if they have it fabricated and constructed locally. These all contribute to our economy.
And it makes great sense, Jeff. So I completely agree with you. So I think as this goes to other audiences that may not be as favorable or supportive of the arts, it certainly needs to be highlighted. But I just think that as we begin to have too many, I mean, now we're at 6, if the for example, quality materials and application of craft, I wonder if that ought to be, I mean, shouldn't that be obvious in some ways, that we're seeking to promote the highest quality art possible, right? So I don't know whether that could be either folded into long-term investment. I'm thinking that if you keep it at 5 values, probably is enough, because as you start to have a longer list, things kind of get lost and might start to get somewhat confusing, for someone who looks at it. So having very clear, succinct sort of priorities. And I agree with Jeff, probably long-term investments is one that for the general public, for city council, for those who might not always advocate for art, might just be, one that needs to remain. The quality materials and application of craft probably could be folded into long-term investments in that matter, that as we promote positive economic investment, then you could say by selecting impeccable and innovative, artworks that will promote cultural tourism or something along those lines. I think I agree with what both Miki and Jeff said, that maybe some wordsmithing is still necessary, but as a piece of sort of, or as a personal preference, when you look at an organization's value or mission or what have you, and things start to get too large and too complex, then it suggests that maybe you don't have your values as clear as you should, right? So having perhaps a maximum of 5, 3, 4, 5 probably helps deliver a more sort of powerful and clear message, right? So that's just a suggestion, a personal preference. Does not mean that you need to do anything. Those of you in the subcommittee but I do think that in this case, as you become more succinct, perhaps the descriptions are slightly longer. If you can reduce the number of actual values, maybe you explain them better with more words. But if the list begins to be longer, I think that it just creates a little bit of, okay, what is exactly that they're really aiming to do,
I think there might be opportunity also to combine some of those earlier, maybe 2 or 3 of the first statements here, because social connections and dialogue, there seems to be some easy connection between the 2 of those. Those first 2 areas are the community identity and social connection are the 2 shortest. They're pretty short sentences as they are right now, and so might be some opportunity to combine a couple of these and maybe end up with 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you think of it, the values in some respects kind of becomes the umbrella for the major themes of what the committee or the public art hopes to achieve, right? So if you can summarize that in sort of 3 or 4 major sort of avenues, then people will more clearly understand what we're about, and what we're hoping to accomplish, right?
If I could add a little bit to the conversation, I agree with Alfredo about the materials and craft. The other elements or the other statements on values aren't as material or concrete as materials and craft as a value. And it could be put into or like what was mentioned, folded into another one. And in reading these also, there felt like there was some overlap. They could probably be rewritten and rewritten and rewritten and make each one obviously distinct as to what the value is. So they're obviously different. Just making them distinct and not to speak poorly of it, but committee speak, where we try and say things that maybe could be better written, more succinctly. These are just some thoughts I've had on reading these over a few times. So those are my thoughts on this.
Any other thoughts from committee members, particularly those of us who are not on the subcommittee? Any thoughts, any suggestions?
I was going to point out in the long-term investment, the part that's more interesting to me is the cultural tourism part. I don't know how important that is as in the values or for Clark County, whether or not that would be combined with one of these other values or keep it separate. I'm not sure. But maybe it could be part of the enhanced community identity portion in promoting cultural tourism.
Alexia raises a very important point that, for example, if one of the values of Clark County Public Art is to eventually promote cultural tourism or develop some form of activity related to it, you know, a catalog that is more visible, in fact, suggesting either walking or driving, you know, itineraries where people could just see the pieces and you know, so make it more sort of visible in a sense for the public. So that's why I was saying that when we write these values, that kind of, in some ways, the way I see it, would commit the you know, Clark County Public Art to certain directions, right? And so in that sense, if we say something about the idea of promoting or becoming a driver to help promote cultural tourism, we would be held to that standard, and therefore we would have to ask, well, what are we actually doing to foster that or to make sure that that happens, right? And it goes as you know, Jerry mentioned earlier with quality materials and application craft, and you know, that probably also has to do with committing us to a certain type of art. And as we know, there could be installations that in fact pursue or desire to be temporary, and where the material, in fact, the case. I mean, I don't think we have done that in the past, but what if the artist statement is a bit like land art, where the idea was to have the forces of nature to sort of erode and interact with the piece, and over time sort of make it change or whatever, right? So that's why sometimes I feel that when we set values, in so many ways, it really commits us to a certain set of outcomes, right? So I just ask the subcommittee to keep that in mind as you work on these, so that we feel very, very comfortable about the direction that we're committing to pursue in the future, right? I mean, I think these are very important. So I also want to take this opportunity to thank those of you in that subcommittee, and of course to really praise the work that you're doing, because I think this is a very good sort of start, and it's moving in the right direction. But if you can just maybe keep some of these suggestions in mind as you move forward, you know, maybe at our next conversation, or maybe as we walk on a Word file, you know, outside of committee, you know, we can reiterate some of these observations, right? Any other thoughts, any comments? Mickey, do we have a certain sort of timeline to complete the values? Or?
No, you don't. It would be nice. Well, I take that back. It would be nice by the time we go to the SEC that we values, whatever form that is. Just a reminder of how this like kind of popped up was associating it to the projects itself. So the valuation of a project, maybe it is given out in the calls as language, and maybe it's something that an artist will have to reflect on during their design presentations.
And this, Mickey suggests, in some respects, I mean, this just occurred to me, that perhaps there are some general overarching values, but there might also be the qualities of, you know, if we wish to use this as a rubric of sorts, you know, so the qualities or characteristics of the public art that we wish to see in Clark County. For example, quality of materials and application of craft might just be, you know, a quality as opposed to a value, right? So we might have to have the values as sort of general overarching themes, and then have some qualities that might just be a subset, that definitely helps in the evaluation of art or
Yeah, that might be a great way of looking at it and just separate it out. Because you do have physical versus, some more overarching. And you're right, we don't want to get so detailed out that it becomes difficult.
You've got some great value words there: enhance, foster, encourage, transform. Those are really good for establishing a value, and just pushing those a little more. If to add one more, I don't know what it would be, but that's a really, I mean, those are strong words.
Anyone else? Any other comments, suggestions for the subcommittee? Okay, here none, I guess. We understand that the committee will go back and work some more on this, so perhaps this will continue to be on our agenda for fine tuning and more discussion for our next meeting, I suspect. So maybe, unless there are any other comments, we could probably move to our next agenda item. Yes. So our next item on the agenda would be the discussion to implement a laureate program for musicians or other performing artists. And I want to thank Vicky and her team for sending us the links to the programs that they have identified in other parts of the country. So that was very helpful for me to kind of get a feel for what these programs might need to look like. In particular, I really like the Royal Oak sort of setup. I mean, it seems like it's a nice setup. I was looking at specifically for music. I did some extra research, and I was looking at a program which is in Canada. It's called Discover the Complete Artist, which is for musicians, but trying to specifically for people who are pianists, but trying to see how they can transcend and be more than just a great pianist, but also a complete musician, as the competition would suggest. Of course, the first thing that came to mind is as we look at some of these art forms, I wonder, how one could judge. I personally don't feel qualified to judge or assess the quality of a masterful musician, right? So, I mean, I might enjoy the music, but I don't have the technical expertise to actually be of any help in that regard. So I suppose if we were to have such a program, we would have to think about, how the committees get assembled to evaluate candidates and so on and so forth. So that's a whole other thing to think about. But anyway, so that's just my initial thought. So at this point, obviously, we invite everyone's sort of thoughts and with regards to this discussion to maybe implement another laureate program.
Hi, this is Alexia. So I was wondering if this, I guess, compared to the Poet Laureate is pretty clear what that one is. This one kind of opens up to all kinds of performing artists. Do we want to leave that open so you could have the option of go to include different like musicians one year, could be an actor another year, could be a dancer another year, and who knows what else could be involved in the program, so that it's more flexible? And not, having create one for musicians. Now you have to then create one for dancers and so on and so forth. And so that's one thought. And then the other is more of a question. I don't know, what is the process to establish a program and then to find budget for it?
I could talk about process, do that portion, but so with process, especially with this one, we talked about how as a committee, you will need to kind of dive a bit deeper and then come up with the plan. What is it that you're asking staff to come to go to the powers that be and gain that buy-in, right? So how so I'm considering this program like a project, and with any project, doesn't matter where it comes from, if it's looking to utilize permanent funding from the arts plan, which a program would, then traditionally I like to I need to run it through the major stakeholders, this one being Parks and Rec administration, get their buy-in on it, maybe also talk to the commissioners about this. Some of the other departments would be like maybe economic development would really want to jump on board, or the who knows, the convention center, or maybe it's the tourism bureau of Nevada that would want to jump on board on this. And then from there, once I get really the approvals from Clark County, then it would go on to your budget for you to vote for with a budget, right? So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. We just need exactly that, Alexia, more details on what this committee would want to see out of it, so then I can do that back end work. So keep in mind that your final budget meeting is in April. That's typically when you would vote on your budget. So March meeting would be your last meeting for us to see new projects. You're already talking about this project, so we wouldn't have to, we're not worried about that. It's already been exposed to people. People know that you've been talking about it. But in April, you'll have to vote. Otherwise, we'll be looking at the following year, which isn't a bad idea either. But looking at the following year and working all year to develop this plan.
One of the advantages I see on the poet laureate and potentially these performing artists laureate is that they benefit the entire county, essentially anyone who wishes to have them. So it basically, unlike, for example, the sculpture or mural that might just benefit, or quote unquote, because it benefits the entire community, but it might just be for a particular district, right? Whereas these tend to have a more sort of, or could potentially have a more general impact, right? So basically, the entire county can benefit or enjoy this kind of programming. So that's one thing that I see in its favor. It seems to me that it could run, and correct me, Mickey, if I'm mistaken, but it seems that the poet laureate is basically every 2 years, right? So, so yes, this could be in between, right? So that they basically kind of overlap, and so the next.
Yeah, it'd probably be easier for staff to run one call one year, one call the other. Yeah. Yeah, what you would be looking at, it would be developing that budget for that laureate program, at least a general scope of are you talking about musicians? Are you talking about performing artists? Um, Alexia, that's a great idea. Maybe it's set up um, as a rotating thing, so it's every couple of years swapping to the next. And then lastly, it is funding at the very least a part-time staff member that would oversee the program and coordinate with that laureate to ensure that it works smooth. It's very hard for a laureate to do anything that they need to do on the county side, right? So we always need to have somebody there to help with all of that, those items.
I agree with Alexia, the idea of rotating sort of performing arts, so whether it's a dancer, a musician, or an actor would be great. The idea of having these on alternate years from the Poet Laureate, again, great as well. One of the, looking at some of the programs, and I mentioned the links that you sent us, the Royal Oak one, is that it required the person who's selected to be a resident of their, I guess, county, right, or city, rather. And I think that's not a bad idea, so maybe we could select a local performer, which there are plenty. I mean, we have a lot of people who work on the street, and most of the time these people go kind of somewhat unacknowledged, in the sense that, we know that every show and every, performance venue has lots of musicians, dancers, and actors, but sometimes they don't get any form of way to transmit. I mean, I see the program also as a way to educate and inspire future generations and engage the youth, So perhaps this gives them an opportunity to, again, branch out, highlight the importance of their respective form of art and, the careers available, the options, and so forth and so on. So I see it also as, in addition to being highlighted for your excellence, also having the opportunity to be a mentor of sorts, or kind of, and this is my own sort of thinking, but maybe pass the baton to the next generation of future performers, right? So I do like the idea of launching this second program. Of course, like Alexia asked, there are probably a lot of questions on the logistics of, how do we develop the guidelines and how do we get the money and so on and so forth. So I must say that it's daunting, and it might just be for you and your staff as well. But the thought of it is certainly something that it's exciting. I think it would be a very nice program.
Do you, I think one other thing I'd love for the committee to think about is, do you want a full-blown laureate program, or should this transition more like an arts awards that happens on an annual basis? Eventually we'll have a structure with the art museum. Could we partner with them and have a arts award ceremony each year that highlights all of the arts and how that works? I don't know. Just something to think about too.
And perhaps even the notion of an artist in residence. I mean, I would like that person or those people selected for this to really get involved with the community, much like the Poet Laureate. More than just being a recognition, rather sort of a way to involve themselves, and maybe, for example, working with the youth to perhaps, if you're a musician, perhaps work on a piece that may be performed with some of the, young musicians in our county, or if you're a dancer, same thing, choreograph a piece that might involve prospective, future dancers. I don't know. I mean, I do like the idea of becoming more than just an award or recognition, and becoming someone who is actually involved. You see, Mickey, the way I see this is the opportunity to have mentors that help people understand the value of pursuing careers in the arts. I think it's getting harder and harder for young kids to really say, yeah, I want to be a musician, or I want to be a dancer, I want to be a sculptor, or I don't think you hear that a lot because of societal pressures that you should go and make money, blah 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 blah, right? So having people who are successful in their careers become, in many respects, not only spokespeople or ambassadors, but also to some extent mentors, I think would be a valuable contribution of this program.
It's also too, the piggyback off of you, Alfredo, what comes to mind as you talked about that was, you have that positive community interaction. We're funding a local artist for a sustainable amount of time, which is extremely important, something that our community struggles with. And then, like you said, the mentorship is pretty significant. So I see that vision. I get it.
Yeah, I support that as well over an award program. It's almost like an ambassadorship if we are looking for a different name. But yeah, being part of the performing arts community, I can definitely see that help a lot of artists out and help spread the word in the Valley.
I think that the kind of origin of this discussion came out of the great reports that we've heard from our Poet Laureate program. As evident today, with the Poet Laureate coming here and reading for us and sharing about the success of that program. But I wouldn't want to create an unfunded mandate for staff. I would love to hear what staff thinks about this, and if they're behind it and think that it's something that they would like to facilitate and support. I also think it would be worthwhile to better understand kind of the history of the Poet Laureate program and how it developed here in Clark County and became an element of this committee. And then finally, whether the structure of the Poet Laureate program could be duplicated and just kind of use AI to substitute dance or not exactly, but is that framework there within the Poet Laureate program that it could make it easier to duplicate?
Yep, 100%. I can, if you'll entertain me, and I can tell you the start of Poet Laureate now. So Poet Laureate started with a conversation with Patrick Gaffey and Ed Fuentes. And Ed came from LA and was, talking with Patrick and said, we should really do this Poet Laureate thing. And that was kind of the birthplace of it. Bruce, as you know, was our first Poet Laureate, and he wasn't compensated. So I think the arts plan was very young at the time, and it just wasn't included. Second Poet Laureate was Vogue, and I believe it wasn't until her second term that it was brought up to Parks and Rec administration that Poet Laureate should be funded. And so Vogue received a very small stipend. We had went to the art committee and had put it on the budget to have that approval. Then, so on and so forth. From there, we had several other Poet Laureates from there. Over the years, we kind of, fumbled our way through the Poet Laureateship, and you know, I think we're setting pretty good this year, although we're down a Poet Laureate coordinator, and so the hiccups that are within the program is solely on me. I'm picking up the slack where I can. Where I think we struggle with a laureate program is, and why you have to have one of those coordinators that really is focused on it, is every social media post, every marketing request. These aren't things for the Poet Laureate to have to do. That's for staff to do. And at times that could definitely fall by the wayside. Ashley's Ashley's been great, but poor Ashley showed up to a Board of County Commission meeting and never seen the slides that I was like, oh, you're presenting. So so there are struggles there when it comes to staff. We want to help our community as much as possible, and we try our hardest. So I have no doubt that any of my staff members, if they could, would or should, would pick up you know, some extra shifts to oversee this, or we look to hire someone that's invested in the community to oversee it. So I don't see there being an issue there. It just comes down to, like I said, identifying really what you all want to see from the program, and then me getting those buy-ins from the powers that be and bring it right back to you for your final vote.
You know, seeing the, I mean, the energy of Ms. AV and, you know, and the sort of the slides that you presented, the work that is being done in such a short time, I think it kind of gives me the confidence that this could be super, super exciting for the decision makers, right? So that they can see, oh, well, yeah, these people make a difference, can inspire next generation of artists and so on and so forth. I think it also might give you some opportunity to request that a full position be appointed to deal with both, you know, now that you don't have someone really focused on the laureate poet, but, you know, but if you have two programs of that kind on alternate years, it might just sort of further justify the investment on a position that really runs that, plus obviously maybe their communications, media, managing, you know, as you said, all the other things that are not the responsibility of the artist. So I don't know how the committee feels. I personally, I think it would be a good addition to Clark County because, you know, we're touted as the entertainment capital of the world. So I think, and it might not even be terribly difficult to even find someone who might wish to sponsor or donate to this program, having all these, you know, retired performing artists that live in town and people who are in this industry, right, that might wish to, they might be sympathetic to this program. I wish to donate either time or expertise to it, right? So you know, I don't know how my colleagues on this committee feel, but all I could say is I strongly support this initiative. I hope we can make it work, right? I hope we can get it fly, right?
We are the entertainment capital of the world, and it makes total sense to have a laureate program that echoes that. Question came to my mind is, would there be any value in having the laureate program support the county programming that's already happening with folk events or theater events or things like that, where it would the laureate would be in support of that or somehow connected to it. or would it be more of a standalone laureate position where they would be an advocate for their particular discipline, like dance or music, or or something like that. I don't know, questions I guess to be thought about, and I don't know that this could happen in 2 months. I think we're going to need a longer period of time to mull this over and chew on it. So anyway,
Thank you for that, Jerry. Yes, that's the kind of sinking feeling I get a little bit, but what I think I'm hearing from all of you is there's a high interest in some type of laureate programming. We know that there needs to be staffing that's associated with it. We did Clark County's supplemental positions were required by me or by staff of my level and below to submit that on the 10th, which was on Friday. And so I have a message out to Kathy to ask, should I, try to submit? And what I'll do is I'll submit it 2 ways. I'll submit one that says cultural specialist for laureate program, right? A full-time position that can oversee multiple laureates and other activities. And then I'll also just put in one that is just for what we have the poet laureate assigned to, the poet laureate coordinator assigned to, which is 10 hours. So I'll do a part-time one, I'll do a full-time one. I'll get that submitted tomorrow morning and see if we're too late, we're too late. But if we could get a position ahead of time, that would be wonderful. If not, at the very least, let's all cross our fingers. We do have several positions funded. And if we could just fill some of those positions, that would help the burden to get more programming off the starting block.
Thank you, Mickey. I mean, it's a good sort of way to sort of summarize and cap this conversation. I think there is a sense of support. We understand the challenges both from a staff perspective and also, getting the funding and guidelines worked out. So as Jerry mentioned, it might just be a bit too difficult and overly ambitious to have this done for our next budget request. But I think this might just be deserving of the conversation and thoughtful preparation for future implementation, right? So I don't know if that makes sense to the committee, but that would be the way I would just recommend it, right? So that we keep working at it, actively with the hope of making it happen, right? And seeing the slides, that brings us to our next item on the agenda, which is the report by staff. So.
All right, so we have several open calls going on right now. We have Haven, which is our 4th annual temporary outdoor sculpture installation at Wetlands Park. Super cool call. It is $1,000 for 10 artists to exhibit, very temporary work. Recycled materials are encouraged. So please let people know about that. Keep in mind too, all of these are under our submittable. So it's Clark County. I think it's Clark County Public Arts at submittable.com. I'm butchering that. We will get you the right link. Okay, so we also have a gallery show. It's Big Softy at Winchester Gallery. That deadline is January 26th. Just yesterday, staff released also our Empowered Women of Clark County at the Rotunda Gallery. That deadline is February 23rd. that's in conjunction with our women's history exhibit and the historical component. And then we talked about this a little bit today too, or alluded to it. Our partners, Wetlands, has their 2025 Artist in Residency at Clark County Wetlands. And so that deadline is February 12th, 2025.
For full scope for this month, it will be on Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 at 3 p.m. This workshop will be through WebEx as usual with our link here on our flyer. Our speaker will be the staff of Nevada Arts Council. They will be going over all of their opportunities, programs, and events happening through Nevada Arts Council. We have not had any one-on-one meetings since November of last year, so it's been pretty quiet on this end.
Our youth public art group art exhibition opens this week. Our reception is Thursday, January 16th from 5 to 7. And that's a group exhibition of all the projects for the Youth Temporary Public Art Program for the fall. And our spring program has just started, so we've just now paired our artists with their sites, and that will be coming up soon as well. So we've had pretty good attendance for our workshops.
So our current solo series exhibition at Pearson Community Center is going on right now. We do have our closing reception this Thursday from 5:30 p.m. at 7:30 p.m. again at Pearson Community Center. This is Amanda Weeks's solo exhibition again. Performing there will be Travion Thomas, doing live music, and then we will have a poetry feature by our Clark County Poet Laureate, Miss A.V. Ashley Vargas. And currently exhibiting at the Rotunda Gallery at the Clark County Government Center is the Mother's Roots and Afro-Diasporic Vision. It's exhibiting now through February 27th, with the reception celebration being February 21st from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And we're also seeking vendors and performers for this event. And at our Winchester Gallery right now is our group exhibition titled Folk, juried by Brad McMullough, excuse me. So it's exhibiting now through February 1st, and the reception event for that will be next Thursday, January 23rd from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m.
There was a gallery exhibit at the Wetlands called Regrowth. That was the last exhibit in November.
Okay, and then we have community engagement. So we have listed 11 projects and various activities are completed or canceled. The first one is going to be this Clark County Public Art History. We have contracted, sorry, we haven't contracted yet. We are working with Michelle Quinn on the scope of work, and I'm hoping to get on with that contract as soon as possible. Women's of History Call, that one we have secured a historian and we have set up a PO. Amber from the museum is helping me on that project. And we got disconnected yesterday. We were supposed to have a meeting, so we're scheduling it for later this week. So next month I'll have a better update for you on this project. But one thing should be noted is I still need to go out and hire a graphic designer. So that call needs to come out here really, really soon. I'm hoping to get that out by the end of the week.
Since we recently finished the last empowerment art, we are now trying to begin a new one. This new one will be at the Walnut Recreation Center. We've already gotten our measurements and photos. Now we are creating our art call language, budget, timeline, jury panel, and contracts. And on that note, we are currently looking for local digital artists who would like to volunteer as an evaluator for this project. Recommendations are welcome.
For Together for Better Piano, so the piano pens were slipping. Some of the keys end up broken as well. And so I'm working with the piano expert. He's going to come in January 30th, reinstall all those keys, get the piano, hopefully send out good vibes, get the piano working, so we can at least hear this piano for a little time. It's been a struggle, but you know, public art is an experiment, and we can't just say, well, we won't do it just because. So it I think was worth it to bring some smiles to people's faces. We've gotten emails about it. I've heard people in the park talking about it. So people were excited about it. Now we need some artists to come up with a sustainable piano that we could put outside. Conservation.
Okay, so since the last time we met in November with Zap, we got a total of 34 tags that were recorded and removed by Guerrilla Property. Me and Mickey have been working on extending the current quote contract. We've been trying to get the contract extended to 5 years. So we had the contract, this current one, till December 31st. Once we realized that the new contract wasn't going to be done by then, we put in a PAR request to extend the contract. And the total of the PO on November was $28,320. In December, the PAR was approved. There was 45 tags recorded and removed, and that brought the PO to $37,045. Moving on to Reach. We've been having difficulties trying to contact the artists. So in October, we sent out an email trying to request a meeting with the artists for November 13th. None of them were able to attend that meeting. So the next plan was me and Mickey decided that we needed to call Vicky and discuss some of the stuff that we've had emailed each other over. The artist emailed us back with suggestions to what our plans are for the repairs, but we wanted to have more dialogue between them, and that's why we tried to get the meeting in November. So since we decided to wait through December because of the holidays, and last week we actually got a hold of Vicky and we decided we're going to come up with a document that will kind of list what the county's able to do and what we can't do. And then we're going to give that to the artist so she can meet with her team and they can kind of get together and decide what they like, the best plan of action, so we can finally move forward with repairs. And then moving on to organic study. In November, we got our quotes back for companies that we're looking for to sandblast the clear coat, which has been compromised on the sculpture and the pedestal. Nevada Marble Restoration was awarded the bid, and we sent in a PR in December. The PR was approved, and the PO we found out was approved last week. So I was just talking to the company today. I'm going out to meet with them so we can just discuss the plans for repairs, and then we'll get back with a date for when that's actually going to happen. And that's it.
Thanks, Brett.
Yep.
Okay, for projects, there's the full list of the projects. Eileen.
The Stadium District mural, we are still creating a project proposal with an estimated budget and timeline. But with the current research, we are looking at a budget of about between 100 to 300K for the entire project. We are looking into finding other ways to possibly fund the project. We'll have a full cohesive proposal soon. For ZAP 18 Searchlight, we have our Clark County District Attorneys to meet with our stakeholders, attorneys to discuss contracts at the moment. And then after that, hopefully once the contracts are approved, we can proceed with the project.
So Homero oversees the Juvenile Justice Service mural. They did have a meeting early January, and also this December where they were they do have a design for us. So Homero's on that design team. As soon as he has the specs for both walls, then he could start developing that call and hopefully get out this project. We want to time it around the same time that they have an architect, that we know the building is coming through. So it's a little bit of juggling time right now and just kind of keeping our thumb on it. Family Courthouse mural. So Home Arrow is also working on this project, and excitingly, we did finally get our approvals needed. So we are working on a contract with Jerry Misko. He'll be the finalist for this project.
Mike Norris and Zachary Freed. Hold on one second. Okay. Sorry, there's another speaker behind me. Mike Norris completed his design presentation, and he connected with Clay T. White to make sure there was accuracy on each of the 21 pillars. The evaluators approved his design, and he has a lot of support from the community, such as Clay T. and now Vicki Richardson and Harold have also been able to chime in. Last 2 weeks, the pillars were block filled and prepped. And I just stopped by today, and most of them are outlined. And Mohammed, his co-worker, teammate, started painting today, and it looks amazing so far. The next step is to get with Clay T and develop language for each of the pillars, and to pretty much provide like a poster timeline to give to the public and to also educate.
art funding, the county has sent notice of termination of contract. Next step is it's gonna go to the Board of County Commission for full cancellation. So we are at this point just shutting down this project. There are expenses incurred. The rest of what's left over from the 35,000 should roll back into the arts plan to use for funding. The other portion is just going to go into probate, and we will see if we ever are able to retrieve that additional funding. I have reached out to Davis McCarty. He does have the sculpture, and it might be possibly something to bring to this committee about purchasing. However, he kind of balls in his court. He is going to need to do a few things before it would get in front of you. And then we have Walnut Recreation Center. Homero's working on this project. We did get from long range planning approval to move forward on this this wall and doing the call. And so Homero is working with his jury members right now to set up those goals and community engagement plan for this project. This project should be released hopefully this month. Homero's been working on the Hollywood Recreation Center. Same thing, we had to go to a long range planning to get approvals. So this was just kind of some back end stuff in October. Long range planning had requested that we go to them for all of our projects, and that just kind of delayed things a little bit. I have faith that it's a good thing that we go to long range planning. It's a great way to advocate directly to county management about the great things that we're doing here. And I don't think it's going to delay our projects. It just was what it was for this first round. So we're just trying to make some catch ups. And of course, November and December with holidays and everything, it gets even more chaos. So I think we're in the right direction with these things. So this call is going to be for the artists, it's going to be $55,000. So you see the difference between that 55 and the 64. Some of that funding is set aside for contingency, and then we do have some funding set aside for community engagement. And so we're experimenting with hiring a performing arts group to engage the community with community engagement, and then bring in the artists to reflect off of those things learned from that community engagement. So pairing up our performing artists with our visual artists, we're seeing how this works, right? So. And then Southwest Bridge Part 2, unfortunately, there's no movement going on this piece right now. That is our land art piece, which Alfredo talked about with permanence of materials, where this piece might not be permanence of materials, right? Desert Breeze special events area sculpture, same thing going on with this sculpture. Notice of termination has been issued. And there's two portions of this sculpture that needs to be done. One is looking at some just minor modifications, but also engineer drawings for that modification and for installing. So we don't have those two key things. So I'm looking for a fabrication company that can do that. They'll be doing a little bit of welding work, and they will also be doing the powder coating. And then picking it up from the warehouse and delivering it onto the site will also be a requirement. Additionally, we are trying to secure we'll need a QAA that'll review the existing welds, and hopefully the fabricator is certified, and so we don't have to hire a QAA for that certification as well. And then lastly, we need to look at hiring an additional company just to do all the electrical work. So we are scrapping the electrical that is in it now, that's existing, and we're replacing it with brand new LED that will last a long time and be under warranty. Southwest Ridge Bike Skills Park. I did finally send out the email to start gathering evaluators. I think I'm set at this point. So hopefully next week or the following week, I will be reaching out to that evaluation team, which includes Mary. And Sunset Signature Art Piece, I have a draft of an email to the evaluators. So the evaluators, I'd met with them probably back in, I don't know, late August, and had a great dialogue, came up with some great goals, I believe. And with everything going on, it kind of sat there for a little bit. Additionally, too, then with releasing wetlands that Eileen's going to update you on, I didn't want to pull out another RFQ on top of an RFQ going on actively with purchasing. So I will send out this email by the end of the week and get this project moving in the right trajectory. So I'm hoping that I would say mid-February, we're probably going to see this call for Sunset a signature piece out in our community.
For the Wetlands Monument, the 3 finalists are currently working on their design proposals, including the community engagement aspect. The public is invited to the design proposal presentation that will be happening at the Wetlands Park on Tuesday, February 4th. That'll be at 9 a.m. I apologize, we don't have a flyer at the moment, but if you'd like to come by and listen to the 3 finalists present their proposals, please stop by Wetlands. Again, that's Tuesday, February 4th at 9 a.m. And then for ZAP 16 and ZAP 17, we did have a few hiccups last month that pushed back our timeline. So we now have a new projected completion date of January 31st, 2025. For ZAP 16, we already have 1 out of the 6 utility boxes completed. The remaining 5 is out there painting currently. For ZAP 17, we have 2 out of the 6 boxes completed currently, and the others are out there painting. We have already been discussing dedications for ZAP 17. That is projected to be for February 7th at the Desert Breeze Recreation Center. We will finalize those information and send that out to you as well.
And that is it for staff report.
Thank you, Mickey, and everyone. Thanks for your report. This brings us to our next item on the agenda. Are there any comments or questions before I move to the next item for the staff? Any questions? All right, hearing none, thank you again for the report. Our next item on the agenda is to identify any emerging issues by the committee at future meetings. Any comments made during this portion of the agenda shall refer solely to proposals for future agenda items, and any discussion shall be limited to whether such proposed items shall be placed on a future agenda. Are there any issues that committee members may have identified that ought to be discussed in the future? Hearing none, I think, during the course of this meeting, we identify the desire to continue a conversation with the second laureate program or some form of a program to work with performing artists. So we've heard that. And we also obviously will continue to sharpen the values of public art. So I imagine those two issues will continue to appear as part of future agenda, as future agenda items. So here no other, I think we can move to our next item on the agenda, which is to once again invite any comments by the general public. I understand there is a member from the public who's joining us today, so this might be a chance to make a comment about any items that are not posted on the agenda. If you decide to make a comment, please limit that to 3 minutes. Nope, no comments. All right. In that case, I want to thank everyone and Mickey and the staff in particular for the very extensive and thorough reports they did today, and to the committee members for being able to participate in today's meeting. I also fail to wish everyone a happy new year. We have not seen each other since November, so I hope everybody had a sort of restful and happy holiday season. And our next meeting will be on Tuesday, February the 11th. So look forward to continue our discussions and conversations then. So with that, I think we can adjourn.
Thank you, Alfredo. Thank you, Mickey. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.